Small cars are really fun to drive, especially on twisty roads. They can have strong engines and stick to the road tightly, making them even more thrilling. Sometimes, people who create new technology also make other tiny vehicles like little airplanes, bikes, and trucks. Today, we're going to explore the top 20 smallest vehicles with ridiculously powerful engines. Number 20. Badger Assault Tank. The Badger Assault Tank might be as small as 3 by 3 feet, but it's so powerful that many of the world's strongest armies use it. It even holds the Guinness World Record for the smallest passenger tank on Earth. But what brought about its creation in the first place? Developed by American company Home and How Technologies, this vehicle was designed for the U.S. Special Forces. It was created to be fast and sneaky, rather than just strong and heavily armed. The Badger is powered by a compact diesel engine that produces 25 horsepower. Weighing less than a ton, it reaches speeds of over 20 miles per hour. Its hydropneumatic suspension ensures smooth mobility across rough terrain. The Badger's all-welded steel armor withstands shelling from pistols, machine guns, and automatic weapons, making it the perfect weapon for handling organized crime. Don't mistake its small size for something not to be afraid of. This vehicle comes in different variants, each with a unique arsenal of weapons. The tank can be customized with different weapons, and users can mount different weapons on them, from machine guns to rocket launchers, depending on what it's needed for. Number 19. Brutsch Mopetta. The Brutsch Mopetta is one of the few vehicles in this video that weren't made in this century. It was made as far back as the mid-1950s. That was so long ago that there are only 14 of these vehicles existing today. But just how tiny is this small car? Well, it was less than 6 feet long and barely 3 feet wide. And with such a small size, it's no surprise that it weighed only 196 pounds. And with that size, it could only go as fast as 22 miles per hour. This is courtesy of its 50cc two-stroke engine. That's the equivalent of an average car that weighs 2 tons, having a top speed of 250 miles per hour. Most average cars can barely make it past 140. Number 18. Aston Martin Cygnet.
This is quite something. The Aston Martin Cygnet lives and breathes. It is back.
The Cygnet V8 by Aston Martin proves that even luxurious automobile lines are in the business of making small cars. The microcar is so small that it makes normal tires look extra big on it. Even Mini Coopers are famous for their tiny size and don't look this small. You can see that Aston Martin gave the Mini Cooper a little brother when they made the Cygnet. But don't let its cuteness distract you from the fact that under the hood is a 430 horsepowered 4.7-liter V8 engine. This vehicle can go from 0 miles per hour to 60 in under 5 seconds and can achieve a top speed of over 160 miles per hour. That's an engine you won't even find on most sedans or hatchbacks. So with that compact size and beast of an engine, the Aston Martin Cygnet would make for a very good getaway car. You can add wings to it, and at a certain speed, you might even get a glider. Number 17. BMW Isetta. When small cars became super popular in Europe in the 1970s, not everybody was satisfied with the models manufacturers were making, so the Isetta was born. At no bigger than 55 by 54 inches, this bug of a car had a front door that opened like a hatch. That's right, you had to enter this car like it was a mini rocket pod, because technically that's what it was, except it had wheels and was meant for the road. You may think that with so little space, there would be little room for the engine, but there's still space, just enough for a two-stroke split single motorcycle engine. Yes, this vehicle is so small that while it's supposed to be a car, it has the engine of a motorcycle in it. The Motocompacto became a bestseller. At only 2,500 German marks, which is about $1,300 today, the Isetta was a car most commoners people could afford. And Isetta drivers didn't need an expensive car license, all they needed was a motorcycle license. But over the years, the Isetta slowly faded into a motoring myth as people prioritized comfort and speed over simplicity. Now the Isetta is seen as a relic of European motor engineering. Number 16. Gen H4 helicopter. The Gen H4 helicopter is a small helicopter-like structure, big enough to carry a passenger, but just one passenger. That's right, it's a one-man vehicle. Its cockpit was just a seat anchored to the blades above, with 4 legs under it. It doesn't have a windshield, so weather conditions will really affect the pilot. The 150-pound aircraft has 2 main rotors that spin in opposite directions, powered by 4 twin-cylinder 10-horsepower engines. However, these helicopters were only prototypes, and they cost about $80,000. But 200 pounds of weight, getting lifted in the air and mimicking hovering motions with such a small size, requires a very powerful engine, and it's a step in the right direction. But while some aircraft were made for innovation, some were made just for the fun of it. Number 15. Bumblebee 2.
Last weekend on the 26th of March, we were down here. I didn't date the film, but it was the film preceding.
This plane was not the product of a company trying to make the next big thing or a quest for innovation. It was just a man bitter that he missed out on a world record. Yes, Robert H. Starr was gunning for the world record of the world's smallest airplane when he made the Bumblebee one, but he lost to the creator of the Stitz DDS-1 Baby Bird. That's when he came up with the Bumblebee 2, an improvement of his initial vehicle, which was barely 3 meters in length and had a wingspan of 5.5 feet. It was powered by a Continental C85 4-cylinder piston engine that could generate 85 horsepower. He was able to fly this plane up to 400 feet in the air, thus breaking the world record for the smallest plane ever flown. Unfortunately, it was built to stand the test of a record, not time. And it only ever flew 3 flights because after the 3rd time in the air, it crashed, seriously wounding Robert Starr. While Robert was able to recover, his vehicle wasn't. Enough about impressive vehicles in the air. What about water vehicles? Number 14. Spymaster Mini Sub Scuba Scooter. As much as it qualifies as a submarine vehicle, that would be misleading to call it that, because an underwater scooter serves as a more accurate description of this vehicle. The scuba scooter uses a DC motor powered by a massive battery, allowing the 4-pound machine to move underwater at a rather mediocre speed of 1.24 miles per hour. The simple fact that a vehicle like this can function in itself is incredible. On a 6-hour charge, you can ride underwater for up to an hour. However, the vehicle isn't designed to go lower than 35 feet underwater. There's a buoyancy control device that helps you control the depth at which you ride. It may sound like a state-of-the-art piece of technology, but it's just a balloon that inflates and deflates. And it only moves that slowly because of how much it weighs and the fact that it moves underwater. It costs as much as $1,500, which is about the price of a fairly used sedan cars. And for a vehicle that won't let you outrun sharks, that's very expensive. While you may not find yourself trying to outrun sharks every day, getting through traffic is a more common issue, and this vehicle seems to be the solution. Number 13. Honda Motocompacto. The Honda Motocompacto is exactly like what the name suggests, a compact motoring vehicle manufactured by Honda. It's an electric scooter that fits into a 30 by 21-inch suitcase that's 3.5 inches wide. And weighing in at 42 pounds, there is no way anybody will believe you that you have a motoring device when you walk around with it as a briefcase. 2 wheels, a handle, and foot pads pop out to turn it into a motorable scooter. It has a 0.7 horsepower output, so it can only go as fast as 15 miles per hour. But Honda also has its slightly bigger and faster cousin, the Motocompo. It won't be anybody's first option as a vehicle to commute to work, but if you live in a high-density area where traffic is a problem, it is a viable option. And the only reason you might want to stay away from this vehicle is if you weigh over 260 pounds. The Honda Motocompacto is just Honda looking at their Motocompo and saying, hey, we can go smaller. And they did. And it won't be a surprise if Honda is still looking for a way to make a smaller rendition of this vehicle. Speaking of smaller renditions, someone made a replica of a car so small that it's hard to believe it's considered a vehicle. Number 12. Kids Cyberquad. This vehicle is so small that adults technically shouldn't be driving them. That's right, Tesla made an electric quad bike so small that it's only suitable for kids. Although the Cyberquad for kids is a scaled-down version of the normal Cyberquad, it seems Elon Musk was just looking for an excuse to allow crazy fast vehicles in the hands of kids. Having been released in 2023, the Cyberquad for kids is an all-terrain vehicle that runs on a rechargeable lithium battery that allows a child to drive on this vehicle for several hours and reach speeds of up to 9.94 miles per hour. It may not seem like much, but the fact that this quad bike is barely over 100 pounds in weight and feels and looks light like a toy, yet still packs that much firepower, makes it a vehicle of terror in the hands of a troubled kid. But the designers at Tesla figured something like that would be an issue and didn't want concerned parents boycotting their product before it hit the market. So they added features that allowed the top speed of the vehicle to be limited. To put it quite simply, this vehicle was so fast that it had to be intentionally reduced for safety reasons. Number 11. FLS Microjet. The fact that this vehicle is a microjet should let you know just how small it is. It's dubbed micro, and it's not as if it's so small that it can't fit a pilot in its cockpit. It's just that it's so small that at altitudes where you can at least make out a fighter jet or a commercial airliner, you might not even notice the microjet flying. The quantum turbine system engineered vehicle weighs just 400 pounds, and with a wingspan of 17 feet and the height of a short adult male, you wouldn't be wrong to think that this vehicle belongs in an amusement park. But it's capable of flying at up to 320 miles per hour and producing over 250 pounds of thrust. It's small, so it can only hold about 30 gallons of jet fuel. It can only go as far as 230 miles in a single flight, which is about the distance from New York to Washington, D.C. It's only really used for air shows and minor things, but it did feature in a James Bond movie as well. So this plane is one for spectacles. And that's something it has in common with this next aircraft. Number 10. Mosquito Aviation XE. For an aircraft to be named after an insect as tiny yet annoying as a mosquito should give you a good hint of just how small it is. This one-man aircraft was the brainchild of designer John Updegrove. The 16-foot-long aircraft is powered by a compact radial dual-cylinder engine, which produces 64 horsepower. That engine is so powerful that despite this aircraft weighing up to 600 pounds with a pilot, it can move at speeds up to 80 miles per hour. But with a 12-gallon fuel tank, it can't stay in the air for long. It's named after a flying insect, not a bird, so you really shouldn't be expecting it to be in the air for too long. As innovative as this was, there just wasn't a market for it. Producing one of these aircraft cost $80,000 far back in 2013. That is about the same cost as a high-end luxury SUV. Partners and investors just didn't buy into it, so the Mosquito Aviation XE remained nothing more than a concept vehicle. Number 9. Daihatsu Fellow Max. This car is so small that the side mirrors sit just directly above the headlights, and the longer you look at it, the more you feel it belongs in a Pixar animated movie than on the highway. But although it's a very small vehicle, its engine is quite mighty. A 356ZM double-stroke engine with a 4-speed transmission allows this half-ton vehicle to reach a top speed of over 70 miles per hour. The first iteration of the vehicle came out in the early 70s, and a few years later, they were in mass production in Japan, and by the end of the decade, they were all over the world. This is surprising because very small cars like this aren't very popular. Barely 5 feet tall and only 6 feet long, this is not a conventional option if you're looking for a family-sized vehicle for space. It's more suited for bachelors who need a simple means of going about work and their other endeavors. Number 8. Onewheel electric skateboard. This vehicle is so small that you can fit in a backpack, yet still have you moving at speeds of up to 16 miles per hour. When people think about skateboards, they picture a piece of wood with 4 wheels attached to it. But the electric skateboard with one wheel is just like the name, a one-wheeled electric skateboard. Making one was so hard that when they did, no one bothered replicating it. That way, they were able to get away with having a super generic name, like Onewheel. Future Motion released their series of electric skateboards as far back as 2014, with several models depending on their range and ability. Their latest model, which is the XR Classic model, weighs just around 30 pounds and has a top speed of 19.88 miles per hour, and on a full charge can take you over 25 miles. With one wheel in the center of the board, hooked to the motor, this vehicle is really just a glance into the future of what a small commute might look like. Number 7. Suzuki Cappuccino.
This is a 1992 Suzuki Cappuccino, and it's a little tiny Japanese sports car that was never sold here in the United States.
When you hear the name cappuccino, you're likely to think of a small cup of coffee and not a small car. But ironically, between 1991 to 1998, Suzuki manufactured a two-door roadster they dubbed the Suzuki Cappuccino. Weighing in at just over 1.5 tons with dimensions of a massive ATV, it's near impossible to find sports cars as small as this, with a detachable roof as well. This was a less aggressive-looking sports car, but that's just about where its cuteness stops, because there's nothing adorable about a turbocharged 3-cylinder dual-overhead camshaft engine, allowing it to go as fast as 74.56 miles per hour. But they also made a 3-transmission version alongside the 5-transmission version for people who wanted something more grounded. Although its production ended over 2 decades ago, it was a sellout in its time, with it being in hot demand in the Japanese market and even making its way east to the United States and west into Europe. Number 6. Plymouth Superbird. Half-scale. This car fanatic decided to take his love for the vehicle a step further and make a miniature model of the car which was half the size of the real car. This car may have been only 9 feet in length and just 2 feet high, but it featured 2 functioning doors and an engine that lets the car be driven. An 8-horsepower Briggs & Stratton engine was used to make this miniature vehicle. And as much as it looks just like the car it's modeled after, unfortunately, it doesn't speed like it. But hey, at least it gets to move and be treated like a real car. Number 5. Teledyne FLIR Black Hornet. Now, here's an honorable mention. This vehicle is so small that you can mistake it for an insect. Make no mistake, the Black Hornet may be named, but it flies like a bird. It may just be the length of an adult male hand and the weight of an apple, but this little machine can fly at speeds of up to over 13 miles per hour. This incredible creation is a product of the Teledyne FLIR Defense Company. They make a bunch of sophisticated military technology, and the Hornet is just another one of their inventions. With a small electrical motor powering its 7.5-inch rotors, this tiny vehicle has come in handy for the military, having been deployed by the US Army in Ukraine. It has been so useful that the US Army has ordered many more to be produced, and the British Army, as well as other European forces, have also made purchases. Warfare has evolved past infantrymen and guns. Intel is more important than bullets, and a tiny, unsuspecting vehicle like this can give the Army eyes where their men can't go on foot, making it highly useful. While this vehicle can't be allowed in the hands of civilians, it's not even sold to them, because in the wrong hands, it can be used for crimes such as stalking, spying, and who knows what. Number 4. Renault Twizzy F1. Concept. Twizzy sounds like a funny side character in a Saturday morning cartoon, but it's actually a conceptual idea from French car manufacturer Renault. But this vehicle was so abstract that calling it a car never seemed right. To be accurate, the Twizzy is really an electric-powered quadricycle, a vehicle on 4 wheels that can move in every direction. Powered by a 6.1 kilowatt lithium battery, this half-ton quadricycle may not be the fastest compact electric vehicle in the market, but it sacrifices speed for its small structure. With only barely 15,000 models sold, this vehicle still has a long way before it gets accepted by the general public, and before it does, it will have to undergo a few revisions. Number 3. Seabreacher. The Seabreacher X is one of the most advanced submersible watercraft that we have built to date. The watercraft was designed and developed by 2 engineers, New Zealander Rob Innes and his partner, American Dan Piazza, who are also the founders of the American company Innerspace Inc., which markets, builds, and sells the semi-sub watercraft to customers. It is the production model of the single-seat Innerspace Dolphin. With a length of over 17 feet and a width of just a meter, this watercraft can be mistaken as a huge marine predator. And aside from its shape, it moves like one. The Rotax Ace 1500cc 4-stroke engine produces up to 230 horsepower, allowing this 1,500-pound watercraft to move up to 30 miles per hour when on water and just a little bit slower when underwater. Anyone piloting it would need to do well to stay away from whales, because this craft is small enough to get swallowed by those marine mammals. This vehicle has allowed people to reimagine marine transportation, and it proves that even in the water, the fastest fish aren't always the smallest, and the scariest of fish aren't always the biggest. Number 2. Daihatsu Copen. The first-gen Copen was the world's first hardtop convertible key car, and also one of the smallest hardtop convertibles. Unfortunately, you must be at a complete stop with the handbrake on to be allowed to operate the roof. The Copen was originally designed with a 660cc turbocharged engine to meet Japanese key car regulations. However, since this engine did not meet environmental emission standards in several other countries, the Copen was fitted with a more powerful 1.3 non-turbo engine in these markets in 2007. Styling was inspired by the Nissan Figaro and Audi TT Roadster. Despite being popular in Japan, it couldn't penetrate the European auto market. Despite Kei's best efforts to make modifications to cater to that demographic, the Daihatsu Copen just couldn't go beyond Japan. Number 1. Ariel Atom V8 Mini Replica.
Whatever happens, I got a feeling we're about to see some seriously impressive driving. Stig, best of luck.
If there was ever a hybrid between a Formula One car and a normal car, it would be the Ariel Atom. This car has 2 seats and no windshield or doors. It is small enough that you just need to hop in. Its small body is just all the reason why the turbocharged 2-liter V8 engine allows the car to reach top speeds of up to 160 miles per hour. This is the type of engine found in sedans like Honda Civics, but it's modified to be even more efficient. And given the way it's built, anyone driving this petite vehicle might need earmuffs, so you need a helmet to ride in one of these to protect you from the gush of wind. As much as it's a marvel, it's also pretty rare. Just 25 models of the Atom 500 were built, each carrying a price tag of over $200,000. There you have it, 20 of the smallest vehicles in the world with surprisingly impressive engines. Which vehicle shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments section. And are there any vehicles you would fancy taking for a spin? Let us know all your thoughts. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.